Hi students, today we are going to discuss about the non-living components of the ecosystem. We know that in an ecosystem there is an interaction between the living and non-living components. Okay, so today we are going to study about what are these non-living components of the ecosystem. Okay, so here air is one of the most important component. All living organisms, they need air to live. Okay, so we breathe in air. We take oxygen. In the case of plants, they use carbon dioxide present in the air for the photosynthesis. Okay, by using this carbon dioxide, they make their own food by the process of what? Photosynthesis. Okay, so we all need what? Air. Without air, we cannot survive. And in the case of the deforestation, the rapid deforestation that may result in there is a balance in the air. Okay, and this balance may be disturbed by this kind of activities. That is what? These are human activities. That is the rapid deforestation. Okay, so the next one is what? The soil. It is another component of the ecosystem. So it is soil is one of the most important natural resources. Okay. Then plants use soil for anchoring. Then there are minerals and water. Plants absorb minerals and water from the soil. And the soil we can see so many organisms, and they make burrows and holes. And there are some organisms which can live in the soil. Then the acidity level, the moisture content of the soil, which influence the vegetation and plant life. Okay, so soil is also a very important component of the ecosystem. Then what? Water. We know that water is the essential part of our body. We know that there are different biological activities. There are different reactions, biological processes are occurring in the body. So water is a medium for all these reactions. So water is a very important content of our body. Then it acts as a raw material for what? The photosynthesis. Okay. Then there are some plants which live in the water. For example, lotus. In the case of animals, fishes are the most important one. Fishes use the dissolved oxygen in the water. Okay. And they use gills for taking oxygen. Gills are the respiratory organs of what? Fishes. Then light. We know that the sunlight, it is the ultimate source of what? Energy. Plants use this light. Okay. And then the intensity and the duration of light, it also affects the animals and plants. In the case of plants, they use light energy by the process of photosynthesis. By the process of photosynthesis, they make their own food. Okay. Then for the opening and closing of stomata. Okay. Then what? The seed germination and for flowering. All these are affected by the light. Then if you are taking the animals, we know that some animals are more active during the daytime. This type of animals are known as what? Diurnal animals. Then for example, butterfly, crow, pigeon, all these are what? Diurnal animals, because they are more active during the daytime. Then just opposite, that is what? Some animals are more active during the night time, during the dark time. Okay. So that type of animals are known as what? The nocturnal animals. For example, bats, cockroach, owl, all these are what? Nocturnal animals. Okay. Now let's move to the next component. The next one is the temperature. Temperature affects the various activities of living organisms. Most of the animals, they can survive and grow within the range of 0 to 50 degrees Celsius. Okay. Then we can find animals, some animals and plants that can be seen in the very cold regions, such as penguins and pine trees. They can be seen in the cold regions. So like that, in the desert, in the very hot areas, we can see camels. Okay, they are living in the high temperature areas. Then the animals such as lizards, snakes and frogs, they go underground during the winter season. That is known as the winter sleep or hibernation. Okay, and by doing that, they are avoiding the unfavorable conditions. Then like that, similarly, there is snails and frogs. To avoid summer heat, they undergo what? The summer sleep. That is known as estivation. Okay. So that's all about the temperature. The next factor, it is the humidity. The atmospheric moisture in the form of invisible vapor. Okay, the atmospheric moisture in the form of invisible vapor is known as what? Humidity. Or biological process such as transpiration, the absorption of water by the plants. So these kind of activities which are influenced by the atmospheric humidity. Okay, so in that way we can say that all these are what? Interconnected. They are interrelated. There is an interaction between the living things and all these what? Non-living things. Now let's see about the wind. So wind, the moving air, it is known as the wind. Wind is a very important factor of the environment. It's an environmental factor. It affects animals, plants and even the microorganisms. Okay. So there is an interaction between what? The animals and these non-living factors. Physiological changes in plants are brought about by the wind. There are so many physiological, anatomical and physical changes which are introduced by the wind. Wind also accelerates transpiration and it can cause soil erosion. Excessive transpiration, it may lead to the death of apical meristems. Okay, and that may lead to the production of what? The dwarf plants. That may result in dwarf plants. And wind also helpful in the process of what? The pollination. Okay, so these are all the non-living components of the ecosystem. Okay, and we know that in an ecosystem there is the interaction between what? The non-living and the living components. So there is an interaction between living and or biotic and abiotic components of the ecosystem. Okay, so now let's study about what are these different types of ecosystem. The ecosystem, it is broadly classified into two categories. Okay, they are the terrestrial ecosystem and the aquatic ecosystem. So the entire ecosystem in the world that can be broadly separated, broadly classified into what? Terrestrial and aquatic. Terrestrial means the land forms, the land ecosystems. That may include forest, grasslands, then desert. All these are what? The land ecosystem or terrestrial ecosystems. Then here, in the aquatic forms, these are the water bodies. Okay, the aquatic ecosystem is divided into what? Freshwater ecosystem and marine ecosystem. In the marine ecosystem, you can see the seashore, estuaries, oceans. All these are what? The marine ecosystems. In freshwater, ponds, lakes, rivers, all these are what? The freshwater ecosystems. Okay. So here we can study about the forest ecosystem. Okay. So we are going to study about the forest ecosystem. So what we can see in the forest? We can see that there are what? Biotic and abiotic components. Okay. And there is an interaction between these biotic and abiotic components. Okay. The biotic components may include wild plants, wild animals, microbes. All these constitute what? The biotic components of the ecosystem. That here we are mentioning the forest as an ecosystem. The abiotic factors that may include humidity, light, temperature, wind speed, then altitude. All these are what the abiotic components. So there is an interaction between all these things. Okay. So here the biotic components may include plants, animals, and microbes. These are what the producers, consumers, and decomposers. Okay. So let's see about. Now we are going to study about the biotic components of the forest ecosystem. The biotic components include the producers, consumers, and decomposers. So let's first we can know about the producers. We know that the producers are the green plants. The green plants in the forest constitute the producers. They may be of different categories. Some are annuals. That means these are plants which have just 1 year lifespan. These are what herbs. The second category is the biennials. They have a lifespan of 2 years. Then there are some plants, especially trees. They have several years of lifespan. That is known as the perennials. That includes shrubs and trees. Then in a forest, the trees in a forest are of different shape and size, and their height is also different. Okay, and so that they will form some layers in the forest. Okay, and these layers are commonly known as the forest layers. Okay, so they are arranged in the layers. So there are 3 layers can be seen. The topmost layer, it is formed of branches and leaves of tall trees. The branches and leaves of tall trees is known as what? The canopy. Okay, the branches and the leaves of the tall trees just above the stem is known as the crown. The region, the part is known as the crown. So this region is known as the canopy. That is the topmost layer. Then just below the canopy we can see the middle layer. That is known as understory. That is the middle layer. It is formed of shrubs and tall grasses. That forms the middle layer. Then next one is the forest floor. That is the ground surface. It is formed of the fallen leaves, fruits, seeds, and twigs. All this forms the ground layer. That is the forest floor. Okay, so all these constitute what? The layers in the forest. Now let's know about the consumers of the forest. Now it is the consumers. The non-green plants and animals, they constitute the consumers of the forest ecosystem. The consumers may be herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, or scavengers. Herbivores, we know that these are the primary consumers. They eat plants, they consume plants. Deer, bison are examples. Okay. Then carnivores, these are the secondary consumers. Okay, they feed on the herbivores. Tiger, lion, panthers. Okay, all these are what? Examples for what? The carnivores. Then there may be some which can eat plants as well as animals. These constitute the omnivores. They may include crows, bears, etc. Then scavengers. They consume the dead remains. Okay, the dead remains and the leftover by the carnivores. Okay, so these are known as the scavengers. They feed upon the dead remains of animals. Okay. For example, hyena, jackals, vultures, all these are what? Scavengers. Okay. Now we may go to the decomposers. The decomposers in the forest ecosystem, that include fungi and bacteria. They constitute the decomposers of a forest ecosystem. They decompose and destroy the dead remains of plants and animals. Also, so in that way, they return the nutrients into the soil, and from the soil, the plants can again absorb these nutrients. Okay. Then it also helpful in the formation of the top layer of the soil. The top layer of the soil is known as the humus. So it helps in the formation of humus. Okay. So far we have discussed about the forest ecosystem. Okay. We can see that there is producers, consumers, and decomposers. And with this, there is an interaction between the biotic as well as the abiotic components. So in this chapter, we have discussed the ecosystem, the various characteristics of the ecosystem. Then we discussed the ecological pyramid. Then there is food chain, food web, and the biotic as well as the abiotic components of the ecosystem. Okay, so I'm going to conclude this section, and today we have just completed our first chapter. This chapter we have completed. So in the next class we will start a new chapter, and you may go through these videos and you must read your textbook. Okay, and if you find any difficulty, you can contact me. Okay, so in the next class we will start a new lesson. Okay, so today I'm going to conclude this section. Okay, so thank you all. Bye bye.